Hello everyone, uxwb's mom here to show you how to make one of those wonderful comfort foods that everyone likes, meatloaf. There's nothing like a really good meatloaf when you've worked all day and you're hungry, and it's so easy to make a good meatloaf that stays together, isn't greasy, isn't spicy, and has a really good taste. So this is how you're going to start. I have some hamburger here, and anytime you buy hamburger, always look to get a good lean hamburger. Okay, what we've got here in our bowl is about 3.5 pounds of hamburger. And when you make a meatloaf, you want to make sure that it sticks together, that it doesn't fall apart, and that it's not greasy. And I don't use any special recipe. I just know what makes a good meatloaf. So we're going to start with 2 eggs. To about 4 to 4.5 pounds of hamburger. So I have 2 eggs. I have 1 sleeve of saltines. Now, if you've ever wondered what's a good way to crush saltines, just compress them in the package, squeeze them all around, and voila! Cracker crumbs.
They even open themselves.
No need to put any salt in because the crackers are salted. Okay? The binder is ketchup. I know some people will put pimentos or diced onion in their meatloaf. I don't like any of that. I just like a good old-fashioned meatloaf. So we've got hamburger, a good grate of hamburger. You don't want it to be greasy. Some ketchup, 2 eggs, and maybe, to give it a little bit of zip, this is a spicy mustard. This will just give it a little bit of tang and a little bit of good flavor. Okay, now, this is the part that I don't really like that much. I have to mix it. Anytime you're going to handle food, especially if you're mixing it with your hands, no long fingernails, no dirt under the fingernails, no jewelry, no rings. You want to be as sanitary as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix it. I don't mind getting my hands in things. I don't know. Just the hamburger is really cold, and so I know when my sister makes meatloaf, she puts it in her KitchenAid mixer. And you can do that. I'm just going to mix it by hand until it's the egg and the cracker is mixed together. And
Got an escapee.
oh, it's not that bad once it gets mixed up. But like I said, the hamburger is just really cold. Okay. Mixes up very nicely. The egg, the ketchup, and the cracker are all mixed. You just mix it with your hands until it's a good uniform mixture. And you can tell that it is. Okay. The egg and the cracker are all mixed together. Okay, so now I used to bake my meatloaf in a loaf pan, but it's a lot easier to serve if you bake it in a cake pan. Alrighty, so it's not quite a meatloaf yet though. what I have to do next is I have to really pat it down. I have to really compress it and make it into a loaf shape. Or you can make it into any kind of a shape that you want.
We've made cat loaves before.
I did shape it once in the shape of a sleeping cat. Don't be afraid to really hit it hard, because you want to compress it when it bakes. You want it to bake into a nice loaf shape. So you have to work with it a little bit to get it to be that nice loaf shape. And for a meatloaf this size, I'm going to give it about an hour and a half to bake at about 325. I don't want to bake it too fast because I don't want it to dry out. I want to bake it at 325 so it can bake nice and slowly. Let the flavors really blend. And if you wanted to, depending on how creative you want to be, if you like olives, if you like onions, pimentos, you can put any of that in there. If you want to, you could even put diced potato in your meatloaf. Okay? So you want a nice making meatloaf can be very therapeutic. If you've had a stressful day and you feel the need to vent some hostility, making a meatloaf can be excellent therapy. Not only are you preparing a nutritious meal for your family, but you'll be so much happier and pleasant when everyone gets home, because you've got to vent all your frustrations on your meatloaf. All right. I think that I'm ready to shape it just how I want it to bake. A nice compressed shape. And it'll bake into a very nice shape, and it won't fall apart. And about halfway through the baking time, I'm going to pull this pan out of the oven, and I'm going to pour off any grease that is accumulating in the pan. I'll pour that off about halfway through the baking time. Now, if you want to get extra fancy, about 5 minutes before you serve it, you can pour a little barbecue sauce down the middle, or pour a little ketchup down the middle, just for a little decoration. Some people also like to take a couple of strips of raw bacon and lay them across the meatloaf while it bakes. Okay. Should we shape it into anything special?
Can if you want to.
And if you like a little jazz music and a glass of wine, that can't hurt either.
A glass of wine might encourage that sort of thing.
All right, so you don't want to play with it too much. People might think you're weird or something. And my mother always used to say, don't play with your food, even if you're preparing it. So, there we have a lovely meatloaf ready to go into a 325 oven for about an hour and a half. Oh, pardon me. I must put it in the oven now.
Now, unlike Furhead, my mother knows to take the stuff out of the oven before she turns it on.
Hello,
uxwmom.
I forgot who I was. I was actually very distracted by these oven mitts because I went to put them on and I realized that they were two left hands. And that just derailed my whole train of thought. But anyway, we're here to take the grease off the meatloaf. The meatloaf has been in the oven about an hour and 15 minutes. And I would say it's still probably got about a half hour at least to go. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to see what's going on. uxwbill has to replace my oven light. I can't see what's in the oven. So I'll have to actually take the meatloaf out because it's dark in there.
Yeah, who's afraid of the dark?
All right. Now, even though we had a good grade of hamburger here, there is some grease here, and we want to pour that off. So, you want to make sure that you use a dish that is heat proof. I have a Corelle dish here. And of course this grease is hot. You want to be very careful. So I'm wearing oven mitts. And I want
Two left-handed ones.
Two left-handed oven mitts. And I'm pouring most of this off. Now I want to be real careful because I don't want the meat to shift forward and splash or even fall right out of the pan, but it's not moving. So there we go. So I've got that poured off. There's just a little bit left. And we'll put this, I did turn the oven up to 350 because it didn't seem like it was cooking as fast as I wanted it to. And this is what we've poured off. So we don't want to eat that. So we'll let that solidify and we'll throw that away. You don't want to pour this grease down your drain because that would be a surefire way to plug up your drain. Now one thing that you might consider doing, since it is winter time, you could save that, and what I could do right now is I could go get a couple of handfuls of birdseed, and I could put birdseed in that and let it solidify into a cake, and then I could just hang that in a tree. And that would be like a real treat for the birds. It's like suet. Suet is fat with seeds in it. That would be a cool thing to do. Should we do that?
Why not?
Okay, let me go find some birdseed. Hello, and it's been about 2 hours, and the meatloaf is now done to perfection, and I think we're ready to take it out and have a look. However, people are not home for dinner. So we need to keep everything warm without letting things get dried out. Now also tonight we have mashed potatoes, honey glazed buttered carrots, and now the moment we've been waiting for. Oh, it's dark in there. Gee, I really wish I knew a handyman that could put a new light bulb in my oven.
So do I.
Here's our meatloaf, done to perfection, ready to slice. There is a little more grease that I will pour off. I'll do that right now. I do want to be careful because it's really hot. And that grease could give you a really bad burn. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to get a spatula. And slice it. So, the best way to serve a meatloaf, I had a big spatula, I don't know where it went, but I have this smaller spatula, and so what I'm going to do, this pan is quite hot, But I can go ahead and cut through it. And if people don't get home pretty soon, I'll have to put it back in the oven. But the slices are keeping their shape, and the meatloaf kept its shape, and I could very nicely lift a slice out of here, and I'll show you just how nice this is going to come out. Oops. Here's a half a slice. Doesn't that look yummy? Mm-hmm.